And now via video from the radio adventures of Dr. Floyd, Grant Baciocco.
When I was inducted into the Podcast Hall of Fame in 2018, the first people I thanked were my parents. The second person I thanked was the guy I co-created my first podcast with, and the third person I thanked was Lance Anderson. I'd like to read to you what I wrote then. I'd like to thank Lance Anderson, who founded the LA Podcasters in 2005 and showed us early adopters that we were not alone. He gave us a place to meet and talk with other people about podcasting and not have to explain what a podcast was. It's all true. And Lance's contributions did not stop there. He was the heart and soul of the LA Podcasters. He not only made sure that the LA Podcasters had a booth at the very first Podcast Expo, he booked a revolving slate of podcasters who recorded live from the expo floor the entire weekend, something that had never been done but is very commonplace now. He set up what I believe is the very first dedicated podcast studio in Los Angeles and quite possibly the world at the Brewery Artists Lofts complex in late 2005. Throughout all this and to today, Lance has produced his own podcast, Verge of the Fringe, a raw, gritty, and brace yourselves podcasters, largely unedited storytelling show where Lance lays bare his past, present, and future. I always get excited when I see a new episode come into my feed because I know what I'm about to listen to is 100% Lance Anderson. He's also dedicated to preserving the history of podcasting so people don't think that it all started in 2007. More news on that soon. Lance could not make it tonight because of the many things going on in Southern California right now. He would like me to add thanks to Marisol and fellow Hall of Famer Evo Terra for their love and support. He forgot to thank them in his video. Hopefully they don't get too mad at him, just like my wife didn't get too mad at me for thanking Lance way before her in my speech. It is an absolute honor to induct Lance Anderson into the 2025 Podcast Hall of Fame.
First off, let me say it's a true honor to be inducted into the Podcast Hall of Fame. It really is, and I feel really grateful about it. I wasn't really sure how I would feel, and I know my dad is thrilled about it, which is cool. But it has been a rocky road to get here, and it does kind of start with Rocky, the original Rocky, the movie. I saw that in the theaters when I was a kid, and I saw the people jump out of their seat during the fight, and I thought, I want to do storytelling, and I didn't know how to get there. Another important person for me on that process was Spalding Gray. After seeing his swimming to Cambodia, I thought, okay, that's what I want to do. Still didn't know exactly how to get there. So I did stand up for a while, but eventually really got involved with storytelling. And I got to thank some people. A buddy of mine back from when we had the dream of the 90s, my buddy Hiram, who told me I was an artist and really approach it that way. And I did. My late friend Stan, who helped me work with music and all sorts, build these beautiful websites for me. We put Real Audio, sort of precursor to podcasting for me back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Beverly of Story Salon, I got to thank her. That was a home base for me to doing storytelling. Even Ira Glass, who I had to send him this demo CD, and he didn't put me on a show, but he did send me a very nice handwritten note. And I think he's an important part of the whole podcasting thing. But regarding podcasting, I really have to say the one person if I could only thank one person, it's Dan Klass. He told me about podcasting. He helped me start a podcast, and he's just a huge part of what this whole process is. And I really would not be here without him. I want to thank John in the UK for helping to create the artwork and kind of give a certain style and look to what I was doing. And even though I'm a solo podcaster, it does take a village, so to speak. And the village that I created was the LA Podcasters, which was just, a cutting edge group that I think there's 4 or 5 of us now in the Hall of Fame, including Tim Street, who's being inducted this year. But there's Grant, who's helping me with this, Elsie and Dan. So I also want to thank or acknowledge, really, because they need to be Kush and Tim, who are fellow storytellers and were amazing. And Joseph Doherty, who I worked with on some stuff, including his handwritten theater. I want to thank a couple of the guys from X, DJ Bonebreak, who created some music for me, and John Doe for being John Doe. Wrote for Podcast User Magazine early on, and that was a big thing that I was doing, and got me thinking about how to preserve podcasting. And also, one of the things is, it was about not just promoting my podcast. And as part of the reason I'm here is because it was promoting the idea of podcasting, which I also have to thank the BBC and NPR for early on for embracing podcasting. I did this thing called the Lance Anderson Podcast Experiment back in 2006, where I did this little tour. I got to thank Nigel for putting that together. We got to do something at Cambridge, which was amazing. And so that, all of that. But now I'm at this point where I'm trying to help preserve the history of these early days of podcasting. I'm working with a guy named Dean Whitbread in the UK, and we're trying to really share the stories of podcasting in those early days, and also acknowledge all the international podcasters that have really contributed to podcasting. And so I'm committed to doing more of that as time goes on here. So once again, thank you very much, and especially thanks for the Academy of Podcasters. Thank you.